Before we start today's episode, I wanted to talk about something that's important to me. Over on Instagram, Twitter, I do a bit more lifestyle stuff. A couple weeks ago, I was working with Subway and it was World Sandwich Day. So together we raised over 13 million meals for charities fighting hunger across the world. And in Canada, that was around 1 million meals to Food Bank Canada. And it's so awesome to work with brands that do end up giving back, just like how I try to give you guys as much of the tech that I review. I was actually on site on the activation day, meeting some people and just chatting about stuff outside of tech, and just want to share that awesome news with all of you. Let's get back, of course, to the tech stuff. So today's episode is a revisited review of the Sony Xperia XZ1. This has been out now for almost 3 months, and I'm just kind of gathering my thoughts on Sony's flagship for 2017. I've always been intrigued by Sony devices. I've kind of been a Sony fanboy. I use obviously their cameras, and I've always had a soft spot for their smartphones. The design has kind of gone unchanged for the past couple years. It's still a rectangular block of metal, and that's something that I do miss, especially in 2017, as we see most phones going over to glass. It's nice to feel the hard, cold aluminum, and the build quality of this guy is awesome. But when you switch to the front, this is where Sony, if you ever see this, listen to me here, you need to change these bezels. They are humongous, ginormous, massive. For a phone that's around the size of, say, an iPhone 8 Plus, some of the larger handsets that we've seen, it only has a 5.2-inch display, which is decent, but it's only a 1080p panel. It's not Quad HD like most flagships of this year, so that's obviously something, Sony, you need to change also for next year. The things that Sony does right around the design are the front-facing speakers, and this is where they can reduce the size of the bezels, but if you keep these speakers, your audio experience will be awesome. It's better than most phones that we've seen, and it does keep the trusty old 3.5mm headphone jack, and it also has a built-in DAC, which means high-res audio you can still listen to. Thanks, Sony, for keeping that around. We've got the on and off button on the side, and as I'm up here in Canada, this does have the fingerprint sensor built in. For those peeps that are living in the States, you don't have that option. I'm sorry, as this is one of the fastest that I've used, and I do prefer the side placement than having one located on the back. As it packs the Snapdragon 835 and 4 gigs of RAM, that does bring it up to 2017 standards. Everything that you throw at the XZ1, it crunches through without any problems, just like any flagship that you're paying for this year. That's really why I don't go too hard into performance. This was actually the first phone to ship with Oreo 8.0, and in the past couple months, I have got a couple updates, so that's definitely nice to see that they're keeping on top of things to make sure the software experiences matches what we have over on the hardware department. So the display, like I mentioned, it's an LCD panel. It doesn't have the same black levels or saturation and contrast ratios as, say, an AMOLED or an OLED panel. It's kind of just average looking, makes the phone look a bit dated, which kind of makes you think, who is this device for? And I think that's where the main selling point, love almost hate relationship, comes to the camera. For the still side, I find this a bit strange as Sony makes awesome sensors even for other smartphones. It just takes average photos. But maybe just like their cameras like I'm recording with, it's the video where this thing really shines. This is the first camera that shoots at 960 frames per second. It takes a bit of time to get used to nail the timing on when to hit the 960 FPS, but once you get it, super slow-mo fans and people that use and make video content, you guys will be super happy. I loved this thing for shooting video. It's probably one of my favorite cameras for that function. It's got a 2700 milliamp hour battery, which I think can still be a bit beefier. Since the screen is smaller, it doesn't suck up as much juice, but I do find myself running dangerously low at the end of the day. You should be able to sneak through, but don't expect this guy to last a day and a half to 2 days. You probably have to charge it every single night. And other than that, the XZ1 I think is for a particular niche market, especially for video users out there. The performance is great, but that's just like any flagship that you'll see. And of course, the design is something that you'll have to look past. Definitely hoping Sony upgrades that in 2018. I hope you guys enjoyed this revisited review, and I know that this guy has already dropped in price, as they tend to do as the months go on. I will leave links down below, of course, in the description box, and I hope to catch the rest of you in one of my next episodes or in one of my next vlogs. Peace!